Hey guys, good morning. Hope everybody doing good this morning. Just got done, got some drink from Dunkin' Donuts, man, hanging out up here about to work with West Georgia, mixed with these guys and just having a good time. And just really been enjoying working for West Georgia Worship Center up here. Such a great group, and they're really, excited about what all God's doing, and they're approaching church a little differently, and I'm excited about it. I'm thankful. So I wanted to take a minute. I was on the drive this morning. I had my son with me, Talon, and he was sleeping, pretty much. But I woke his butt up early, got him going to church, But Lord began to minister to me something about the language of intimacy, and I wanted to take a minute and kind of share some thoughts on that. And I'm realizing that He's been ministering to me for a while. One of the things that was really interesting. Sorry, I'll make sure I'm good. It's a little bit rainy here, so I started looking a while back. I was reading the Lord's Prayer and began to kind of break it down and kind of ask God for wisdom and clarity in that. And, teaching us how to pray. What does that mean? What does it look like? That kind of deal. And I was really blown away with how much power is in the Lord's Prayer. And it's not just the reciting of it, but it's when you break it down and you open it, God gives us an insight into the language that moves the heart of the Lord. It's really encouraging. And the very first thing He says, our Father which art in heaven, our Father, He puts God into a place of intimacy immediately, into a place of honor, into a place of somebody that looks over us and protection. If you didn't grow up with a father, if you grew up with the version of a father that didn't really line up to what you would hope one would be, unfortunately, a lot of us kind of relate our godly relationships back to our earthly ones, and it's a dangerous thing to do. And we're people. We don't know any better. We don't mean to do that. But a father is a protector. A father is a provider. A father is even a lover. A father is is wise counsel. A father is somebody that'll walk with you through the craziness and be there with you, that'll discipline you and say the hard things to you that you need to hear. But the place of intimacy that God puts, that God's put right there is as a father. He doesn't say Lord. He doesn't say Master. He doesn't say God, speak to me. He says Father, which art in heaven. And that really impresses upon me that everything points back to growing into the reality of who you were created to be, as a son, as a daughter. Everything points back to that in the Bible that I can find. It all goes back to our original intent. Our original nature was to be an heir with Christ. There was no plan B. You're not a oops, you're not an accident. You didn't just happen to stance. You were created for purpose, for plan, and created for such a time as this. Today, the one that you're living in, this is the time that you were created in. And I was reading in, I think it's John 15 or something like that, 15:7 maybe. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask anything you want of me and you'll have it. And that's something that God's really been ministering to me about, the language of intimacy, because now that I really believe that my heart's aligned with the will of the Lord for my life and our family's life, and we're getting together with an incredible community, and I believe that their hearts are aligned with the heart of the Lord for their life. And that verse about if you abide in me and my words abide in you, to abide is to linger, is to hang, to stay, to spend time. Obviously that's Matt's version. That's not the thesaurus of the world, I guess. But in my mind, that's to linger, to stay, to be, to spend time with. And it's really encouraging to know that God loves us enough to call us a son, to call us a daughter. And the language of intimacy begins in your mind. And what do I mean by that? The battlefield of the mind is where most victories are won or lost in our life, right? Because if we think it, as a man thinks, so is he. You take every thought captive. There's tons of them, right? Well, if you in your mind have a language that is opposite what God has called you to be, that can manifest in you acting opposite of what God has called you to be. So if you come against yourself constantly in your mind, man, that was stupid. Why did I do that? I can't believe you did that. You're not worth nothing. You're all these negative things, and it's easy to fall into that trap. It's so easy to fall into it because it's in your head. Nobody hears about it. That's Jesus come down. He's talking. It's like, man, if you've thought about a woman wrongly, you've lusted. That puts a whole new perspective on the importance of thoughts, right? If you can think about somebody and commit lust with them, or you can think about murdering them, or you all these things, and it becomes real, that it helps us to understand the relevance of thought, right? Speech transcends words. There's ways to talk, and there's ways to share, and there's ways to communicate. I don't want to say talk. There's ways to communicate that don't require words, that don't require speech, right? And that's something that God's really been working on me on. My wife tells me a lot of times I'm unapproachable. You're just unapproachable, Eden. Yeah, she don't mean that by it. She's not being mean or hateful. It's just sometimes I only have a couple of faces, and my faces don't tend to move very often, no matter what I'm doing. So my happy face can look like my sad face, or vice versa. So that's just the way I am. But one of the things that God's been ministering to me about, along with the language of intimacy, is the posture of intimacy, and what that looks like. And our Father, putting God into the place of intimate connection, and again, beginning to walk into who we were created to be instead of who we were, kind of taught that we are. There's a difference there. But listening to the Bible this morning, it was really important to hear that about the thought side. I guess I've underestimated the power of thought, and it's not one of those, I don't know, new age movements to where if you think it, you are it, and all that. I don't know. I guess biblically there's a root of truth in that, and some of this I'm just working out in my mind. So forgive me if I'm rambling, but this is kind of my thought process as I go through stuff. Being able to control your thoughts and control your mind seems to be a pretty prominent portion of the gospel, right? As a man thinks, so is he. And if you think about a woman and lust after, you've committed adultery. It shows that there's way more to it than I guess what I've been led to believe. Let me put it that way, So whenever we're talking to ourselves in our head, we got that self-talk, or we're replaying situations, we're replaying conversations, and surely I'm not the only one that's ever done it, to where you replay a conversation, if I'd have said this or said that, and you start going to the what ifs, the why nots, and all that kind of stuff, and you begin to maybe even get anxious about it, or whatever. I try and use those opportunities as learning opportunities to do better next time if I'm faced with a real similar situation. But I've been guilty of pretty negative self-talk for a lot of my life. Just in my mind, I'll tell myself I'm stupid, or I'll tell myself, man, that was dumb, or you can be doing better, what is your problem? And that, I used to think that was a driving force in my life, and I think it was. I just don't think it was a healthy one, right? I'm harder on myself than anybody ever could be, by all means. I'm not necessarily a perfectionist, but I like things done to the best of my ability, and if my ability can exceed what's been done, I want to redo it, and just because I want to do a good job, I really do feel like as I'm doing things, I'm doing them unto the Lord. I want to be pleased with what I've done, but I want the Lord to be pleased with what I've done. And if I've made every effort and I've tried, I feel like He is, and for me, the language of intimacy begins in your mind. And this is something I'm just kind of working through, but I really believe it begins in your mind, and it begins by putting yourself into a place to where you are safe loving yourself, and being okay with who you are. I was listening to Dave Ramsey the other day, and he was talking about investments and things, and he made a statement. He said, when I felt safe and I felt secure with who I was, I just started being me. I didn't have to be the version of me that you wanted, or they wanted, or anybody else wanted. I was able just to be me. And I think that in my world, and in the world of a lot of people, is a struggle, and sometimes, because part of leadership is constantly removing yourself from a pedestal, right? You're constantly having to combat somebody putting you on a pedestal of, oh man, you're so smart, and you're this, and all that's fine, and most people don't mean it that way, but if you're not careful, it can begin to get to your head, and then you can begin to get prideful and things like that. But the language of intimacy for me, and this is something I'm going to try my best to begin to practice, is going to begin with my self-talk with myself, and I'm going to try to begin to refer to myself in my head, I guess, as someone who is loved of God. You look at the Gospels, and John said, the beloved, the one whom Jesus loved. It's like Jesus loved all of them. No, I'm the one he loved. I'm the guy. I'm the one he loved, and he proclaimed that, and he said it. And I'm going to begin to really do my best in my mind to think that way, and think that. Because I talk about intimacy a lot, and I feel like I spend a decent amount of time with the Lord, and I feel like the Lord spends a decent amount of time with me, and we commune, we talk, and he shared a word with me this morning for a friend of mine, and was able to reach out and love on him and encourage him today. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the times that I hear from the Lord, but I believe that God wants to stretch me at this point, and grow me into understanding that I am a part of his kingdom as far as a son and as a daughter, and what that means, and the rights that comes with, and the privileges that comes with, but also the responsibility that comes with, and I believe he wants to stretch me mentally to help me begin to speak more intimate about myself. I'm really starting to kind of sense that for me, because I think that'll be the key for me. That'll unlock, not being so anxious, not being so stressed out. Anxiety has a root in fear. What am I fearful of? Well, I'm fearful of what could be, has been, or might never be, and because my mind's so stinking analytical, I start to see all these little pieces and put them together, and I can get stressed out, or I can get overwhelmed, or whatever. So one of the things I'm going to work toward in my world is beginning to speak the intimate things in my own mind, and ask the Lord to help me with that, and not be so hard on myself if I do something foolish, or if I, in my mind, have done something foolish, or if I drop the ball, or have an impure thought, or I'm going to do my best moving forward to not be as hard on myself, and give myself a little more grace, not the grace to do it again, but the grace that, hey, it's okay that it happened, and begin to invite God into that portion of my life even more, so that way I can get more intimate with him. There's things that I would say to my wife that I wouldn't say to nobody else. Obviously we have an intimate connection, intimate relationship that I don't have with anybody else, and I shouldn't have that. And as a part of the bride of Christ, that should be the exact same thing that I feel with the Father, right? We should feel so interconnected, so interwound. Anything that I say to God is okay at this point. Even if I'm upset, it's like, Lord, why? I don't know that the Lord gets angry when we question him. I don't think he gets mad at us when we ask a question, or if we're going through a hard season, we say, Lord, what did I do? What's going on? And sometimes it has nothing to do with what you've done, but something that he's doing in you, and there's a difference, sometimes I think people may find fault with the Lord when the fault doesn't lie there, right? Every bad thing that happens can still work together for the good, every bit of it, Brother Garen, man, he was talking last night at the barn about, the times that you are in the most, it was talking about like imprisonment or whatever, the time that you were captured doing something wrong was like the best time of your life. Even though it sucked going through it, it brought fruit, right? And I think that for me, in my mind, has helped me grow. The Lord in me has used failure like he uses success for a lot of people. Failure for me drives me to do better. For some people, success drives them to do better. I don't know what the disconnect is there for me. It's just my own little weird, unique thing. But either way, I'm encouraged this morning. I'm excited. I'm going to get in here. I got about 10 minutes before we get started. And I know I rambled a lot, but some of this is just me thinking through and beginning to walk through, I don't want to say a new revelation, but just maybe a deeper connection and a deeper understanding of what the language of intimacy is, not only with the Lord and with other people, but for myself. And beginning to see myself even more the way that the Lord does, and how proud he is of me, and how excited he is for me and everything that I'm doing. And I've known a lot of that, and it's not like this is brand new, but you can hear something in the wrong season and it doesn't click, right? You plant okra in the middle of winter, it's not going to grow, unless you got a greenhouse. But you plant it and it's not going to grow right then. But you plant okra in the right time, it begins to take root, take hold, and then it's fruitful, right? So I believe that that's what this word for me is. I've heard it before. I believe I've even lived a lot of it before. But I think this season in my life, I'm more receptive to it and I'm more open to it. And I believe that, the ground inside me is a bit more aerated and fertile, to where this can take root and begin to grow and produce fruit in me. So anyway, I'm excited about it. I just wanted to share a little bit this morning, and we'll get in here and mix with these guys and worship with them for a little bit, and look forward to catching up later on. All right. You have a good one.